Any Potterheads will tell you that you missed a lot of things if you didn't read the books. This is why we want to encourage you to run to the library by giving you an idea of what truly happened. Make sure you watch this whole video to know how the story really ended. If you love Harry Potter as much as we do, don't forget to subscribe and please give this video a big thumbs up. Today, we are showing you 10 differences between the Harry Potter movies and books. Skew. Anyone who read Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire remembers Skew, the Society for the Promotion of Elfish Welfare. Hermione was shocked by what people did to those poor house elves and wanted a better treatment for them. This is why she becomes an activist, even though no one was interested in her project, not even Harry and Ron. This is how we got the chance to see Dobby, who was working in Hogwarts' kitchen. He wasn't treated like a slave anymore. Dumbledore offered to pay him, even though Dobby didn't want that much money. We also met her friend Winky, a female house elf from the Crouch family who wasn't really happy to have been freed. She fell into a depression and started drinking heavily. She was also the only one who helped Barty Crouch Jr. escape prison. Convinced that all the elves wanted to be freed, Hermione started knitting socks and hats. She left them in the common room, hoping that they would find them and be free. But the house elves didn't want to go in the common room anymore, so Dobby decided to keep everything. Even though Skew was not really necessary in the fourth movie, it did become important in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. That's because Hermione decided to kiss Ron when he showed that he cared for the house elves. They didn't just kiss randomly in the books. The challenges. If you watched Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, you probably remember that the three friends had to go through a couple of challenges to find the Philosopher's Stone. They had to go through a trap door guarded by a three-headed dog, escape the Devil Snare, catch a key using a broomstick, play a chess game, and finally, find the Mirror of Erised. Every teacher decided to work on something to stop anyone who would be interested in the stone, but it didn't really work when you think that the first years were able to do it. It was the opportunity for the three kids to show what they could do, and while Ron showed bravery when he sacrificed himself, we didn't really get the chance to see what Hermione could do to show how smart she is. That's because 2 challenges were missing. After all, we know that J.K. Rowling loves the number 7, so it totally makes sense that there are 7 tasks. The 6th task was fighting a mountain troll like they already did in the bathroom, but Quirrell already took care of him on his way to find the stone, so the 2 kids didn't have to care about that. But the 7th task was more interesting. Hermione had to solve a logical riddle set by Severus Snape. There were 7 bottles of different shapes and sizes in the center of the room, and she had to use the clues to find the one that they needed. Rita Skeeter's secret. You all remember Rita Skeeter, don't you? When we met her in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, she was a journalist for the Daily Prophet who specialized on writing stories based on false information and misreported interviews. When Harry was participating in the Triwizard Tournament, she decided to interview him and came up with a story that was far from the truth. She portrayed him as a tragic hero who cried himself to sleep. She also said that he had a romantic relationship with Hermione Granger. At one point, Dumbledore decided to ban her from the castle, but she still found her way there. She interviewed Hagrid and asked him many questions that made him uncomfortable. When she met the Golden Trio at Hogsmeade, she also wrote a story about that devious Miss Granger and later said that Harry was disturbed and dangerous. You might be wondering how she was able to find all this information, and this is why reading the books became really important. Rita had a little secret, a tiny big secret. She was actually an animagus, as she learned how to turn into a beetle and had the ability to spy on anyone to write her articles. As she was an unregistered animagus, she could have been sent to Azkaban for this. Hermione captured her and threatened to report her to the authorities if she kept writing stuff like that. This is why Rita stopped working for the Daily Prophet for a moment. The Death Day Party. Just because you are dead doesn't mean that you can't celebrate. Since they are not alive, ghosts don't celebrate the day of their birth, they celebrate the day of their death. That was the case for Nearly Headless Nick in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets for his 500th death day. And it happened to be the night of Halloween. Nick invited Harry and his 2 friends to join him with all the other ghosts, and they instantly regretted it. There was a candlelit dinner of rancid, moldy food with a smell that would cause anyone to gag. That's because it was so disgusting that the ghosts could almost taste it. What they called music sounded like 1,000 fingernails on an enormous blackboard. No matter what, Sir Nicholas was really proud to see the 3 young wizards at his death day party because they made him look good in front of the other ghosts. He even wanted Harry to tell Sir Patrick that Sir Nicholas was very frightening and impressive. That's because Nearly Headless Nick had been rejected from the Headless Hunt and he wanted to prove that he was better without them. Unfortunately, it didn't end well when Sir Patrick stole the show and humiliated Sir Nicholas. Feeling uncomfortable, the Golden Trio simply left the room. Just like Hermione, we would have been really curious to see the scene in the movie. Peeves the Poltergeist. We do love Sir Nicholas, but there is another character that we would have liked to see in the movies. He appeared in every book, so we can't believe that the filmmakers forgot about him. It is Peeves the Poltergeist. Unlike ghosts, a poltergeist is not a dead person, but an indestructible spirit of chaos that haunts one specific location at a time, generally those where you can find a lot of teenagers. They are usually not as strong as Peeves, but with so many magic teenagers in Hogwarts, he became the most notorious and troublesome poltergeist in British history. Peeves didn't mind pulling pranks on any of the students or the teachers teachers. Arcus Filch hated him, and the only people he respected were Dumbledore, the Bloody Baron, and the Weasley twins. Even though he wasn't necessary to the story, he did add a lot of comic relief. We did have the chance to see him in the video games, but why doesn't he appear in the movies? Rick Mayall, an English comedian, was actually supposed to play Peeves the Poltergeist in the film adaptation of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Unfortunately, they cut his scenes and weren't able to shoot them again, so they just forgot about this idea. It wasn't even included in the deleted scenes on the DVD, which is a shame. Anyone who read the books felt like there was something missing in the movies when they couldn't find Peeves anywhere. Dobby. So we do know Dobby, but did you know what happened to him between Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets and Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows? After being freed, Dobby struggled to find paid work. That was until he met Dumbledore, who offered him 10 galleons a week and weekends off to work in the kitchen. But Dobby thought that it was too much, so he asked for 1 galleon a week and 1 day a month off. This is also where he met Winky, who wasn't happy to be a free elf and became a heavy drinker. He frequently used the Room of Requirement to help her, and this is why he was able to tell Harry where that room was in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. He also warned his friend that the Inquisitorial Squad was coming before the attack. In the 4th book, he is actually the one who gave Gillyweed to Harry and not Neville like we saw in the movie. Then, in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, Harry asked Dobby to spy on Draco and find out what he was doing. He always said that it was an honor to work for Harry, and he was pleased to do that even if he was a free elf. This is how Dobby had been a friend to Harry over so many years. It makes his death much more meaningful than what we saw in the movie. The final goodbye. We know that the Dursleys have always been horrible to Harry. Petunia and Vernon treated him like a slave for years, and Dudley always found an opportunity to bully him. Professor McGonagall even described them as the worst muggles she had ever seen. This is why it was not a surprise that they made him sleep under the stairs and pretended that his parents simply passed away in a car accident. They tried to keep Harry from being different in any way, but they weren't able to keep him from going to Hogwarts, where he was finally happy. Unfortunately, when he came back home for the summer every year, Harry was forced to live in this family and suffer for a couple of months. In the movies, the Dursleys always stay the worst muggles we have ever seen. However, things did get a little bit better in the books. When the Dursleys had to leave their home, Dudley actually showed a sign of remorse when he shook Harry's hand, thanked him for saving his life, and said goodbye. That was after Harry saved him from the Dementors' attack, which truly transformed Dudley in the best way. Later in life, we also learned that Dudley got married and had 2 kids who got the chance to meet Harry's kids. We almost got the chance to see the last goodbye in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, but that scene was deleted from the movies. Dumbledore's Backstory. If you ever read the books, you learn much more about Dumbledore's backstory, which will become really important in the next Fantastic Beasts series. It was mentioned in the movies that he did know Grindelwald, but there is so much more that you would need to know about them. He met Grindelwald after graduating from Hogwarts. The two became fascinated by wizard domination, which they thought was for the greater good, and went looking for the Deathly Hallows. J.K. Rowling even revealed that Albus was in love with his friend, who was soon going to become one of the darkest wizards of his time. There was also his younger sister, Ariana, who was left mentally ill and emotionally scarred after being attacked by a group of Muggle boys who witnessed her magical powers. Since that day, she had never been the same and had even been described as destructive and explosive. Because of this, Dumbledore's father attacked the Muggle boys and was sent to Azkaban, while their mom passed away in an accident. Many people think that Ariana used to be an obscurial, like the one we saw in Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. She passed away in a fight involving Albus and Grindelwald, and the Great Wizard always felt responsible for this tragedy. He then went on to stop his dearest friend, who had become one of the darkest wizards of all time. This is also what gives you an idea of what Dumbledore saw in the Mirror of Erised, his whole family finally happy and reunited. James's backstory. There are also a lot of things that you should know about James Potter. Harry's father was not as nice as you might think, and that's probably why most people didn't like to talk about him. We did know that he used to bully Snape when we look back at his memories. As an only child who grew up in a pure-blood family, it was no surprise that he became proud, arrogant, and boastful. He didn't mind hexing innocent students just because he had the power to do so, and his favorite victim was Snape. The two guys hated each other since the first day they met, and they worked hard to make that rivalry intense and permanent. Even though he was a clever student at Hogwarts, he was always mischievous and caused a lot of trouble. To stay with his friend, who was a werewolf, he even spent 3 years trying to become an animagus. And by the way, the penalty for failing to register as an animagus is to be sent straight to Azkaban. With the help of his friends, James also created the Marauders map, which can do as much good as it can do wrongs. No matter what, there was a reason why Lupin and Sirius always said that he was a good man. There are not a lot of people who would have been ready to face Voldemort without a wand, so we can say that James was forgiven after that. The ending. If you read the books, you were probably surprised to see that the filmmakers didn't listen to J.K. Rowling in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. We all know that Voldemort has always been afraid of death, and this is why he created a bunch of Horcruxes. And facing his greatest fear was presented in a much better way in the book. Harry wanted to show Voldemort that he was only a human. This is why, when Harry won the battle, Tom Riddle just fell flat on the ground like a normal human being. However, slowly disintegrating in the movie made him look less human than he really was. What Harry did with the Elder Wand was also really important. In the books, the boy who lived actually used the Elder Wand to repair his own wand. Then, he placed the most powerful wand in the world back in Dumbledore's tomb where it belongs. Many fans were shocked at the end of the movie because Harry simply decided to break the Elder Wand in two instead. However, we do have to admit that we prefer this because no one will be able to use it again. It would have been too easy to steal the wand from Dumbledore's tomb as Voldemort did before. And you, do you prefer the books or the movies? Don't be shy to answer in the comment section down below. We'd love to hear what you think. And that's it for 10 differences between the Harry Potter movies and books. For more stories like this, make sure you watch This Is How the Cast of Harry Potter Should Have Really Looked. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.